Oh, that door.
Quickly before you all complain about my lack of existing, and before I talk about the actual topic at hand in this video, I need to address the reasons as to why I've been about as active on YouTube as I am, well, in general. As you can see by that little and completely forced sketch, my whole fucking room has changed.
Yeah, I'm in university now, which means I have to be more considerate of things, like finances, emotions, and noise, apparently. So, obviously, some changes have come about. My room is now about as small as my self-esteem, and I now pretty much have to do everything myself. Not everything myself. See what I did there? I'm not going to make an actual thing about my relationship, because that's what the old Nitalics would do. And I don't really want to go back to that. I can imagine, like, old Nitalics just making a video about that. It's like, or making a take me out related joke, like, single man, reveal yourself.
It doesn't really matter where I am or what the backdrop is. I mean, whatever, right? The whiteboard is still there, so I can still continuously make terrible jokes on that, and all my kit made it safely to my new abode. So now, I can carry on making content for the same number of people as there are people in my flat. It's 7.
I find it difficult making myself laugh, so more than one is going to be something difficult to grapple with. And speaking of grapple...
As you are now probably aware, since there are trailers all over the fucking place for this game, Just Cause 4 is releasing early December, which is really fucking close. The end of November? What the hell? And I figured now I'd take the time just to discuss the franchise as a whole before its release. A little Just Cause history lesson, if you will.
Now, I would like to point out that Just Cause 2 is one of, if not my favourite game ever made, and I've put a psychotically large amount of hours into it, and I'm still not even remotely done. Regardless, this video will most likely turn into an overly biased splooge fest in order to make you buy the games. Whether or not this video convinces you is up to you, but this is just a warning before all the orgasmic splooging commences. Because it will.
The Just Cause series has certainly had its fair share of changes since it came to life 12 years ago. 12 years ago? Fuck, I'm old. Yet, it seems the premise of the game and its renowned tropes have stuck around and moulded it into the majesty that it is today. I mean, you play as a dude who can now grapple, parachute, and wingsuit whenever he wants. You get guns, tanks, planes, helicopters, bikes, and cows. The only way to travel. I mean, I get the sandbox games are made primarily for the so-called ultimate freedom and to give the player a fat old world to dick about in, but Just Cause allows more freedom than I do my own balls.
Don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining. The transition between the third-person shooter and the much more open sandbox was very much needed. It was a good change, even if it's now being milked faster than every Miltank in the Pokemon universe because of the potion shortage. Jesus, that was a convoluted joke.
But seriously, the sandbox genre is slowly going down in quality and has now become the go-to for most developers. Two perfect and opposing examples of this are Metal Gear Solid 5 and The Witcher 3. Both of these franchises switched rails from a more linear perspective to a fully open world experience. While The Witcher 3 took the sandbox tropes and firmly planted them into it, with side quests and organic exploration becoming key to the game's formula.
That bloody Baron quest? Fuck, man.
Metal Gear Solid 5 became a sandbox because it could. I'm not even a huge fan of the series, but I know for a fact that the second and third games were praised because of its linear-driven gameplay. The change they made was not only unnecessary, but it added nothing to the franchise.
Apart from Metal Gear Survive, we can ignore that one, because I'm pretty sure Konami made that up on Playground in Break. My point is, Just Cause has been a series dedicated to pure open sandbox and freedom, and that central thought has carried out through the first 3 games, and hopefully we can carry on into the 4th, because the focus has been majorly put on people enjoying themselves in an open zone. It's now a game renowned for its large open spaces, much like me after the biggest shit imaginable.
It may not be as successful as your GTA or your Saints Row, but regardless, I am here to argue why the Just Cause series should not only be defined as the ultimate sandbox, but why it is my favourite series of all time. So, if we are all sitting comfortably, then let us wingsuit right into this video. Just stop, just fucking stop. The year is 2006. The year of Cars, that time that there was a whale in the Thames for some reason. And of course, we can't forget game releases like The Elder Scrolls Oblivion, Wii Sport, Bully, Saints Row, and not to forget, Cars, the video game. Yeah, I played that shit, and I like Cars, leave me be. Oh yeah! When put into perspective like that, it was a big year for games. It was the birth of the Wii, and had some of the most nostalgic releases within it. So where does Just Cause come into this? Well, about, wait a minute. There it is.
Just Cause should have been placed into that nostalgia file lodged in our minds from the early and late 2000s, but it's just been placed with all the other general shit that came out that year. I mean, it came out September 22nd. Do you know what else came out that day? Jaws Unleashed. Yeah, I don't know either.
This, according to IGN here, gotta make that very clear, got a better reception than this. I know!
The beauty of the game wasn't its graphics. No, what made Just Cause was the vastness of its map and the gameplay that complemented it.
It's fairly obvious that no one played any of these games for their story, since they're all as existent as my emotions.
Okay, well that was unnecessary.
No. People played it because, well, there was so much fucking shit to do. Yeah, there were other sandbox games at the time, like Bully and Cars.
What is it with you and Cars today? I love Cars.
But the sheer scale of Just Cause for its time was something to look at and go, holy shit, that's pretty damn cool. The map itself was over 1,000 kilometers squared, which even for a modern day map size is pretty bloody big. And to run that on a PlayStation 2 is also pretty bloody impressive. And I know that the texture quality and general look of the map isn't exactly amazing to look at. It looks more like one of my sneezes in the height of spring. And I'm aware that games like Shadow of the Colossus looked infinitely better for its time. A whole year before this game.
Weird flex, but okay.
But the scale of the map is what makes the game so impressive. The instant you finish watching the Pixar short that is the first cutscene, and you jump out of that plane and see the map in front of you, that shit stuck with me.
Now, time for a story, I feel. Oh, it's the wrong one. Just Cause as a series and narrative go about as well together as me and literally anyone attractive. That's not to say the stories are boring, no. They're just shit.
All of them follow a similar theme. Bad person is a dictator, had bad things and wants to do bad things with these bad things, and Rico comes in and says, guys, can we, like, not, please? But of course, Rico doesn't negotiate like that. No, he just goes around blowing up stuff that isn't his, like I did in Year 10 Chemistry, and with roughly the same amount of destruction. The thing is, the original Just Cause didn't include as much of the aspects of chaos as the other future games are renowned for. Yes, it had the liberation of villages and drug cartel hideouts, but destruction was not as core prior to Just Cause 2.
Really, the game was much more about the exploration of the map, which is not what I was expecting going in. But regardless, the list of things you can do in this game include walking, swimming, jumping, shooting, driving cars, boats, air vehicles, motorcycles, stunts, parachuting, skydiving. That's a lot of things.
Being an open world, these are open to you at any point in the game, with the story taking a back seat. Sticking to the car metaphor, the story of Just Cause is basically a fat slobbery dog in the back seat looking out the window with its tongue out, while you just keep looking back to make sure it's not dead, while gameplay is the toddler sitting behind your seat that constantly needs entertaining and won't fucking shut up.
I don't have a car for this bit, so I'll have to try and improvise something. Hey, scaffolders down there! Shut the fuck up! Oh shit, one of them looked at me.
There is so much to do in Just Cause. The story doesn't matter. So much so that people go and buy these games knowing to avoid the story.
Not that there's anything wrong with that, of course. Like, if the gameplay outweighs the story but you don't notice it, then there's no problem to it. Both No Man's Sky and Minecraft have taught us this in very different ways.
Story isn't everything, and I totally get that. If anything, Just Cause is a great example, even if the existing story is a bit lackluster. The focus of the game is on the gameplay, and when it has as much as Just Cause, you don't really mind. The amount of fun I had just messing about in this game showed me how the story didn't matter and hasn't stopped me enjoying myself. The fact that just pissing about in any section of the map can inject such happiness into my gaming life is what makes it so special. I'm gonna level with you guys here, okay? Literally, everything about this game is perfect. Besides the odd nitpick, the core gameplay, the map, the colours, the fucking lighting, the soundtrack, all of it is sperm to the face amazing. So before I spray compliments over it like a dying flower garden, I should probably get the issues out of the way first.
Everything is imperfect, everything has flaws, deal with it. Sorry, it's just, relatable humour.
Regardless, it still pains me to say that Just Cause 2 just hasn't aged very well. It's still an insane game, don't get me wrong, but aspects of it have become dated beyond belief, which isn't really the fault of the game itself, but the fault of its sequel, Just Cause 3.
Now I know what you're thinking. Ugh. How is this possible? I thought a sequel was meant to improve on the last one. That's the definition of a sequel, even if a lot of them don't follow that. But in reality, what Just Cause 3 did was just show how slow its predecessor actually was.
I never like tearing apart games, especially if it's one I actually enjoy, but the fact that one in the same series is to blame makes it even harder.
Leave Rico alone!
But anyway, I'll see what I can do. Just Cause 3 introduced so many new mechanics and improved gameplay-wise massively. Multiple grapples, wingsuit, free stunt jump, the freedom within the game was something to take note on and go, yeah, that's pretty good.
But what that did was deem the previous title redundant. No one wanted slow extraction or the collection of items. No one wanted parachute and grapple. No one wanted fucking cars. Really?
It just removed many segments that made Just Cause 2 so enjoyable. And I know a lot of people will be like,
oh, it's not Just Cause 2's fault.
And you're right. Just Cause 3 adding these new things like multiple grapples and the wingsuit, while in its own game more fun, relating it back to its original makes them less so. The joy from cars in Just Cause 2 was insane. The fact that literally anything will flip you over. That's fucking hilarious.
By the way, this is the emotional splooging part, so I suggest you either skip or leave if you want to continue using most of your senses.
The number of vehicles and how the weight to them can actually be felt when driving gave the game both a sense of realism in its driving mechanic, as well as its urge to just, fucking fling it off a fucking cliff and see what happens. All vehicles, from the little tuk-tuks to those bloody Boeings, are fun to control, and the fact that you can just bail out and watch this.
I think you all know what it does, and it rhymes with really large penis. Wait.
Oh, and the bikes were actually controllable. The bikes in Just Cause 3 control like the parents that birthed it were pissed upon labour, and out came a bike that fails to cooperate in any way.
Bad bike! Fuck!
Right. Time to talk about everything else this game does fucking brilliantly.
Every mission, besides the strongholds, because frankly those aren't anything special, are just insane. You've got the shooting down of rockets with a plane during takeoff. You've got some zombie Lost-esque shit with the Euler boys. You've got that stripper thing on the Mile High Club.
We have a visual requesting back.
Yeah, that's pretty neat.
The grapple and parachute work perfectly together, allowing for easy traversal in a map the size larger than Belgium. That may not be true. The variety of biomes and weather effects give the game the realism it deserved. I mean, he's got snow on him.
I know that Red Dead 2 has just done that, but this was 8 years previously, so props to you on that, Square Enix. Okay, what the fuck did you just say?
The gunplay and other attacks with the grapple are just really damn fun, and the level of creativity with the grapple, even before multiple were added, was insane fun. And now, they've added like 10 to number 4.
I mean, go hard or go home, am I right, lads? I'll be off.
There's tons of secrets to find, hidden locations, endless amounts of collectibles, and unlocks to unlock. What is that script? And plus, I mean, the game looks fucking gorgeous. Every single god ray looks like Jesus flashing at me.
I'm just gonna open this window right here. Oh my god! Guys, please just go and buy this game. It's so worth it. There's so much love to give it and so much to talk about. Like, I haven't even mentioned races, helicopter fights, explosions. If you don't do it for yourself, because you've never experienced fun in that endless timeline that is your life, then do it for me. Even if most of you don't give a toss. Now, I might anger some people with this one, because even though I love this game, and I've played it for many, oh my god, so many hours, I've come to the conclusion that Just Cause 3 just isn't really that good.
Now, I don't mean the whole game per se. As its own individual game, it's a vast and enjoyable sandbox experience, but as a part of the Just Cause series, I don't know. Something was missing for me. Like, it looks amazing, and the wingsuit, grapple, and parachute trio I could talk endlessly about, but it lacks in many aspects. But anyway, let me get to the positive aspects of it first and say that this is possibly one of the most fun games I've ever played. Fact.
The sheer expanse of the map is just always breathtaking, and you can tell that it was designed to complement the mechanics in the game. From the mountains to the small Mediterranean villages, the beauty and love for this game is something for everyone to admire. Jesus Christ, that was passionate. What is this game doing to me? However, it's not as good as Just Cause 2, and I know a lot of people, whether you know me or not, are probably going, but, dudes and dudettes, what? Just let me explain. Please?
While yes, giving the player a massive world to play in is fun and all, the variety of the map itself is lacking.
Bigger is not always better, as my girlfriend could attest. Bigger can be an advantage, but it's what it holds and what it contains that truly makes it what it is. Okay, that doesn't sound any better.
My point is, Just Cause 3 is a big map, that is true, but it's a map that does not change. It's been so built around its mechanics that the variety within it has just gone. Think back to Just Cause 2, you had desert, alpine, forest, cities, much like how the upcoming release is stating. It's being built in the same way since you can still create a varied world that complements the mechanics. Medici was just a canvas of one colour with that fuck off mountain in the middle of it.
I didn't even explore Grande Pastura behind the mountains, I just never went there. I mean, big pastures, more like big waste of time. I wrote that.
So much of it I just never went to or went back to. And besides the mine and Corte Dragon a few times, that massive island for me lay quite untouched. Even the capital didn't feel like one. It was surprisingly tiny for being the biggest city, besides like one building. And with that in mind, it's just so sparse of actual things to do, like the densely packed cities and towns in the first two sections. It feels out of place. And then there's the volcano I visited for the boss, and no other time.
Apart from getting this footage, Smartass?
Much of the game's impressively large map I just didn't go to, which could be an argument that it's just too big, but I think it's just because it's all very similar.
And not to mention all the water as well. The amount of water in Just Cause 3 is way more than Just Cause 1 and 2 had combined. Yes, I remember the massive section in Just Cause 2, it was between the desert and the big landmass that with no name. The one with the casino on it. But there were roads connecting every single island to each other, apart from the smaller islands and things like oil rigs.
You could, with a lot of time, get from one end of the map to the other just by driving, but in Just Cause 3, that can't happen, and massively broke the flow of gameplay, and it just made the world feel as artificial as it actually was. No map of the series is or could be a real place, but Just Cause 2 certainly brought me into Panau more than Just Cause 3 did for Medici.
Of course, Just Cause 3 has its positives. The range of vehicles is always impressive, and the amount of explosions and chain reactions you can get is insane, even if it lags and stutters more than me on a pissed night out.
I swear it drops below like 15 FPS after a couple of explosions, which isn't very promising for a game with a focus on that. And vehicles, although there are loads to choose from, there's no need for them anymore. The wingsuit works just fine, which removes quite a lot of the fun within the game. And in general, levels of content are just so much smaller than the other two. Just Cause 1 had around 300 side missions in a world chock full of races and events. Just Cause 2 had the completion bar, which would take genuinely thousands of hours to complete, as well as over 350 locations and 1,000 collectibles.
Just Cause 3 has around 100 different locations to complete and 16 other collectibles for like 3 different items you can get. So maths-wise, that's like not that many. It lacks in content compared to its predecessors, and unfortunately, I didn't think gameplay made up for that.
On a more general point though, Rico himself has actually gone through quite a bit of change over his 9 years of being a god, and it seems the depiction of him within this game, as a blues band rhythm guitarist apparently, has become his true look, since there are major similarities between him in 3 and 4.
I like the look of Rico more in Just Cause 3. There you go. Look, the game isn't bad, okay? I need to keep repeating that point. I still put hundreds and thousands of hours into it. I mean, maybe it's just me. Just Cause 3 was my most hyped up game of all time. Fact. And I was expecting Just Cause 2, but the same again with more onto it, which is what Just Cause 4 seems to be looking like. And the fact Just Cause 3 wasn't it, sort of made it more disappointing for me, but that's more my fault than anyone else's. And I guess because of that, I wasn't as impressed as everyone else.
But of course, I can't generalize a game. I have to look at it in its own right. So I will say the first part of Just Cause 3 is the most fun. When you're first introduced to the new grapple mechanic and the wingsuit, that is what makes Just Cause 3 so special. Of course, I have gripes with it. It's the sequel to my favorite game. I will find faults in it.
It would be like Edgar Wright writing and directing Scott Pilgrim vs. the World 2. Don't do that. Don't.
It's clunky, unpolished and slow in numerous cases, and a game that focuses on ultimate freedom and immersion in its world isn't that immersive when it's slowing down at every explosion. I still recommend it. Every single game in this series deserves attention, and certainly more than it has. Just play the third installment before the second, you'll thank me after. Well, you won't, because I'm a character in a YouTube video. So being thanked has the same likelihood as getting big on YouTube, but you know, some of you might.
Look, I may have been harsh on Just Cause 3, okay? There's still a lot to talk about. Like the comparisons between Just Cause 2 in terms of police system and extraction and all that kind of shit. Things like how the police seem more difficult in Just Cause 2 and are more aware rather than Just Cause 3. Or the fact that Just Cause 2's easiest difficulty seems even more difficult than Just Cause 3 in general. The positive changes to the Rebel drop. Mario.
I'm sure a lot of you will disagree, and that's fine. What's the point in these kind of videos if we all think the same? But however you see this, every single game in this franchise is worth the money and your time. It won't bullshit you with its freedom. That starts the moment you're in. Even the DLC adds to the game, and regardless of price, it will make it even more exciting than it already is. What these games have done throughout the ages, and will continue to do at the end of this year,
hopefully,
is prove that the sandbox genre is one of opportunities. It's the go-to now, granted, but that doesn't make them hopeless and unimaginative.
Just Cause isn't just about endlessly shooting dudes and then driving to the next location, right? It's a video game, which means it's damn good fun, and a lot of games seem to forget that nowadays.
People play games for escapism, a way of leaving the life you have and entering another, which is likely why RPGs are so popular. But these games changed the scope of the sandbox. It challenged what freedom within a game is, and it showed me why I still game today.
So there you have it, a history of the Just Cause series that took 2.5 months to write and create. I hope you're happy. As Just Cause 4 vastly approaches its release date, I'm still going to be hyping it up, but I hope this video sheds a bit of light on the series itself and why people might be more excited for this one than all the others. But in general, if you have a PS2, PS3, PC, then go and play all these games. Have a look at them. They are damn good fun and will be worth your time, but just don't play them on an Xbox, because they'll probably disappoint you. Not the games, just the Xbox. All of these games were and still are great additions to the sandbox genre, and hopefully Just Cause 4 will go just as far. Unbelievable. Hello all, this is the end of the video. Well done, we finally made it. Congratulations, I'm finally done. And so are you. Well done, you got through it. If you got to the end of this bit, then congratulate yourself, because a lot of people certainly won't. I hope this new idea that I've put to the channel is working and people are actually enjoying it. I hope the backdrop isn't shit, because it certainly looks it. There's not much here. It's very quiet. Thanks to everyone who helped me with this, because this has been quite a long one. It's taken me a very bloody long time. But yeah, maybe I'll now start writing another one and actually get it done. So let's give it a go again and again. Alright, hope you enjoy it. Bye. Bye, see you later. I can't believe you did a genuine outro and ended it with that.